Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is finally dead. It recently released its last season, ending the game with a joke, because there's no other way to describe what happened with this game. I had the chance to play it now that it was on PlayStation Plus, and I decided to give it a shot. I'll be very honest, I think it has its positive points, but the negatives overwhelmingly outweighed them. It's incredible to think that this game was in development for at least 7 years, and surprisingly, there were parts I genuinely enjoyed. However, I have to say that I only played through the initial story and I didn't touch, nor do I plan to touch, any of the following seasons. I might play the very last one, but I'm a bit unsure. And today I'll try to discuss this game by topics: gameplay, story, the Justice League, among some others. I'll try to remain as impartial as possible, but that's going to be a bit difficult. So, just remember to subscribe, I'm trying to reach 1000 subs, and without wasting much more of your time, let's get to it. The real start of this game is pretty stupid. It begins with a tutorial that could have been entirely cut, making the game better and more dynamic. After this short tutorial, the screen shows 7 days earlier, but during the story we never actually reach those 7 days later. But now the story truly begins with a small callback to Batman Arkham Asylum, where Rocksteady attempts to recreate in some form the intro of the same game that put them on the map. However, even after 15 years, this one feels weaker. We see Amanda Waller, the director of Argus, arriving at the asylum to recruit our 4 main characters. We learn she's implanted bombs in each of them and tries to put them against each other by placing a detonator in front of them. This scene is perfect for introducing the game. It highlights the personalities of the 4 squad members very well, like Captain Boomerang being the first to try and grab the bomb, showing he's willing to let the others die. This is an arc I really enjoy throughout the game, as he becomes fonder of the group. This scene also establishes Waller as a superior being over everyone. It's truly an amazing scene to introduce the Task Force X. Right after this, the squad realizes they're in the Hall of Justice, the Justice League's most prestigious location. Here we gain our movement methods, which I'll discuss later, and leaving the hall, the 4 finally see why they've been taken out of Arkham. Earth is being taken over by Brainiac, the supervillain who has captured the Justice League. Mid some battle, we are introduced to a corrupted Green Lantern and given a small tour of the city. This is one of the parts I enjoy the most in the game, even though it's one of the dumbest. Green Lantern wants to kill the squad, but doesn't do anything while holding them captive, for some reason. And also he lands on a random rooftop instead of Brainiac's ship. Just stupid. And that gives the Flash, who hasn't been captured yet, time to save the squad. Right after, while the 2 heroes fight, we chase the Flash and find him badly injured. This leads to us seeking shelter in the Batman Experience, basically a Batman museum. While the squad decides their next steps, Captain Boomerang takes Flash aside and accidentally cuts off one of his fingers, which becomes important later. Then, none other than our GOAT, Batman, appears. But this time, it's a Batman who kills. This kicks off what is for me the best sequence in this game, which we'll discuss that later. We must escape Batman while he hunts us from the shadows. After taking down all the squad members, he picks up a gun and shoots. But Flash saves the day one last time before being absolutely beaten and captured by Brainiac. Now we can explore the museum, but we must return to the Hall of Justice and enter the Inner Sanctum. Despite King Shark's good attempt, it's Flash's finger that ultimately gets us in. Inside the Sanctum we meet the last normal League member, Wonder Woman, who humiliates us and sends us away. However, she's the one who leaves instead, and Argus takes over the Hall of Justice. Here we meet Hack, basically our assistant, though she feels just like another filler character, and the squad finally receive their proper suits. And the real action begins. With these bombs in their heads, they're at Waller's mercy. However, since the bombs came from LexCorp, they plan to infiltrate without Waller knowing. But before heading to LexCorp, we go to Penguin to acquire some better weapons. Here we encounter the usual enemies, a pattern that becomes tedious as the game progresses. We beat them, and of course, Penguin doesn't come along so easily, so we give him a little motivation by implanting a bomb on his head. Easy. Now, equipped with better weapons, we go through another repetitive combat section and then fetch some more gear. This time, grenades. Along the way, we run into Wonder Woman again, who once more advises to leave Metropolis while we still can. Oh, and King Shark isn't used to rain. I love that detail. Before we can leave, Green Lantern shows up, looking for Wonder Woman. Captain Boomerang naturally spills her location, and what follows is another round of combat here and there, and then we meet Gizmo, a new character who will help us throughout the campaign, and of course, gives us some more side missions. Finally, the squad is ready to remove the bombs from their heads. At LexCorp, we clear out some enemies and find a doctor who will take the bombs out for us. Of course, Waller finds out about the bombs, and Lex Luthor appears for the first time, deleting his secret files while Hack tries to salvage what's left. Meanwhile, we discover that Poison Ivy is back. Yes, the same Ivy who made the heroic sacrifice in Arkham Knight is back. We track her down only to find she's now a child. I hate this. We help Ivy, and the squad decides not to implant a bomb in her. However, Boomerang goes against the decision. Great. Another ally for our repetitive missions. Yay. After that, we help Hack with some very important errands and assist some Argus agents as well. But now the real game begins. We hunt down Lex Luthor to finally face Flash because Lex has an anti-speed force thingy, some gadget that works against the Flash. Lex is killed by the Flash and Wonder Woman ends up saving us. She traps us in a container, leading to an amazing scene where we can't see anything, just a black dark screen where we hear our characters chat. It's a very fun scene. We end up inside the Daily Planet and we chat briefly with Lois Lane before leaving and returning to Waller. Then we're introduced to yet another super important character, Toyman. He gives us some more repetitive missions, but eventually he creates another anti-speed force thingy. Finally, it's time to kill the Flash. How? In an incredibly boring boss fight with an absurd repetition. Oh, and how does the Flash die? By being shot. Also, worth noting, Flash somehow has all of his fingers intact here. Brainiac retrieves his body and Green Lantern shows up. The squad thinks they're unstoppable, but no, we're teleported to an alternate world, Earth 2, where we meet a long-haired Lex Luthor and we bring him back to our world. And we hide this information from Waller. We face new enemies, cheap Flash knockoffs, yay. Next, we retrieve our anti-lantern thingy from the Wayne Bank. Inside the Wayne Bank, we see Wonder Woman creating a kryptonite shield. After that, we go after Green Lantern. As you can guess, it's another terrible boss fight. But breaking Brainiac's ship shield is the most important thing, and that requires something powerful. That's when my favorite character of the game has an epic moment, putting on a Green Lantern ring. Oh my god. This scene is fantastic. Although it doesn't make much sense, the scene is truly incredible and I love it. I love seeing King Shark get some recognition. Waller then launches a nuclear bomb at Brainiac's ship, but in an epic moment, Superman appears and deflects it into the city. Afterwards, we escort Waller to the Hall of Justice while Wonder Woman fights Superman in the city. Upon reaching the hall, we witness Superman nearly killing Wonder Woman, but before he can finish her off, we distract him, giving her enough time to stab him with a kryptonite stake. However, it does nothing, and he kills her anyway. Wonder Woman's death actually made me a bit sad. I liked her character in this game. But next, we go after Batman in his Metropolis Batcave. There we find a hologram where he explains how to defeat the Justice League in case they ever turn evil. Oh, and Robin is dead. Yeah, another stupid decision. Here, we're hit with fear gas and play through a nonsensical sequence where we defeat it using Harley Quinn's gas. Okay. Then we have a boss fight against Batman, which is awful. He survives and we take him to LexCorp. But now it's time for the Man of Steel. Of course, we need our anti-Superman thingy. But before that, we randomly kill Batman in a bench in the middle of Metropolis. Yes, Batman Arkham dies from a gunshot fired by Harley Quinn. Then Superman shows up and we kill him too. After celebrating, Brainiac does something he apparently could have done the whole game. He captures the squad and takes them to his ship. No, let's just forget that he could have done this the whole game. Lex saves us and now Waller and Lex team up to finish Brainiac. We're introduced to a multiverse of Brainiacs, we complete some things here and there, and we enter another world where we face a Brainiac who claims to have studied the squad for a long time. For some reason, he uses the Flash's powers, making the boss fight a literal copy of the Flash battle. We kill Brainiac and the story ends. Without a doubt, the game has many weak points, and this story is just all over the place. And obviously, the best thing about it, it's King Shark, hands down. Which incidentally was the character I used the most throughout the game. But yes, sometimes I switch to the others as well, just to mix things up a bit, but the main reason I use King Shark more than the others is that besides being my favorite, he also has my favorite method of movement in the whole game. There are 4 methods, one for each character. King Shark uses his ancestral powers to leap, Harley Quinn uses a grapple gun with his little flying Batman thing, Deadshot uses a jetpack, and Captain Boomerang uses a Speed Force gauntlet. All the movements are very distinct and unique. Well, at least something had to be, because my god, this game is repetitive. Surprisingly, the combat isn't the most annoying or repetitive thing for me. I even enjoy the combat. I just don't like doing it over and over and over again against the same enemies and in missions that always feel identical. It's incredible how this game makes every mission feel the same. All the side missions involve going to a place, defeating the enemies there, and even the main story follows this formula dozens of times. Some missions are a little fun, letting us use the character's powers and fully experience each one's gameplay, but after a while it just becomes too tedious, and all that effort doesn't lead to particularly anything. It's worth leveling up to improve the skill trees for each character, which aren't that complex, but most importantly, the combat is enjoyable, as I said, when not overdone. I had fun, and I really liked how the weapons react on the PS5's DualSense. Of course, if you compare it to Arkham Knight, it's a much weaker and more repetitive combat system, but this is a live service game, so it couldn't be the same. Without comparisons, the combat is good enough to pass the time, but to be totally honest, it's really hard to feel motivated to spend time in this game outside the main story. While the combat is enjoyable, the open world, in my opinion, is terrible. There's literally nothing to do except for those missions handed out by various characters we meet throughout the story. Oh, and the riddles. Speaking from the bottom of my heart, I love having the riddles here. Okay, they don't make that much sense, but what does in this game? It's like logic just flew out the window. At least the riddles managed to add a tiny spark of life to this sad world. There isn't a single good side mission, just those enemy encounters, which, let's be honest, are always the same. Everything just feels so automatic. For me, it's impossible to spend many hours in this world, mainly for that reason, lack of variety. Even the Riddler's races, which are something a bit different, aren't that impressive aside from unlocking new suits. His lines just don't hit the same. In the Arkham games, Riddler obviously has a much deeper connection with Batman, and every line feels more impactful, but here, when you hear them, they're just bland. Which leads me that I have to mention how dull and lifeless this world is. Okay, let's put it side by side with Arkham Knight, 9 years apart. It's absurd. Suicide Squad has this weird grayish look, especially at night. At other times of the day, it's quite acceptable, sometimes even beautiful, but without comparing it to Arkham Knight, you can appreciate the graphics and the view. As an open world though, it's horrible. Alright, now we've reached a pretty complicated aspect of this game, the Justice League. Let's start with the positives. The visuals. These designs for the entire Justice League are absolutely stunning. I don't love the Flash's design, but I don't hate it either. Wonder Woman, incredible. Green Lantern, phenomenal. Batman, nothing out of the ordinary, which is to say, pretty good. But Superman, oh, what a perfect design. This is a beautiful creation. This Superman is no joke, one of the most visually stunning takes on a Man of Steel I've ever seen. And it is quite simple. It's a shame though, that such great designs are wasted in such a terrible way in this game, because I'm sorry, but it makes absolutely no sense that the world's greatest heroes would even have the slightest issue defeating this Suicide Squad. Even with those anti-Justice League thingies. Having a fight against the Flash boiled down to the fastest man alive standing still, waiting to be shot, is an insult to the character. Green Lantern being defeated by his own constructs, which somehow turn against him when we shoot them, that's ridiculous. And Batman. Oh, the Batman boss fight. I'll talk about this one hero on its own. We'll get back to this topic. As for Superman, his fight is basically the Flash fight with a few tweaks here and there. I can confidently say that all these boss fights are massive insults to the characters. It's sad because instead of getting a Superman game, which was Rocksteady's original concept before this game, we got this version of the Justice League, which by the way, doesn't even die. The League returns at the end of Season 4 in a cutscene that isn't even a real cutscene. It's one of those animated scenes that this game loves so much. Wonder Woman is really dead, but these 4 heroes, they're not. The worst part is that nothing in the story hints at this except for the Flash's finger being back. But even that could have been easily explained with some super regeneration tech from Brainiac. In other words, the game made absolutely no sense. If it was just called the Suicide Squad and it was in a completely different universe, not Arkham, it would be okay. Oh, by the way, Arkham reminds me of someone. Yeah, the Kaiju Batman. Okay. For me, Batman has both the highest and most disappointing points in this game. His introduction is perfect. Perfect. Being introduced to this new Batman by watching him kill a civilian is an incredible, effective way to immediately make him much more intimidating. We all know what happens when Batman starts killing. This Batman experience sequence is in my opinion the best section of this game. These minutes of pure terror where you can barely see anything, just hear screams and sounds and suddenly Batman appears, it's hands down the best part of the entire game. I love it. I just don't understand why Batman leaves the squad unconscious instead of killing them. Makes absolutely no sense. Seriously, zero. But since he lets them live, we see him spying on us throughout the map during the whole game, which again is perfect for Batman's character. It continues this Arkham tradition of always having someone watching. That just keeps you on edge, but honestly, it doesn't amount to much. The Batcave is really bland compared to the other versions. This one just feels extremely weak. Oh, and Robin died, okay? Just needed a reminder. As for the Batman boss fight, it starts off, honestly, very good. The fear toxin is used on the squad and this section, which was supposed to be horror, ends up as nothing more than a boring walking simulator with barely any lighting and a few jump scares trying to be scary. How did they fumble this so hard? And Harley Quinn, being the genius she is known for being in the Arkham universe, creates her own toxin to counter Batman's. And that leads us to Kaiju Batman. Was this the best they could come up for Batman? I hated that fight and the horrible ending they give for Batman. It's such a shame because this was the final performance of the incredible late Kevin Conroy as Arkham's Batman. In fact, he had a few more lines recorded, but we'll probably never hear them now that the game's over. That honestly feels criminal. Oh, by the way, remember when I mentioned that Tim Drake is dead? Well, actually, he's not. In the game files, it was revealed that Robin was supposed to return in the future seasons that the game was planning to have. I found about this thanks to Pineapple Sway's channel. He's made several videos about Suicide Squad, so go check him out. Now, what would be Rocksteady's best move for the Arkham universe? Honestly, it would be to completely forget this game, to make it non-canon, because this whole thing is a giant mess. And it's such a shame because once again, this game was one of the final performances of the best Batman actor to ever exist. No disrespect to the others, but without a doubt, it was the greatest. I think the best steps for the next game would be either a possible Arkham Asylum remake, I've seen some rumors here and there, or maybe a game featuring Nightwing and Red Hood. I would love that idea. Or something else entirely. Arkham Shadow was a success, but it would have been even bigger if it weren't VR. But what can you do? I think there are plenty of great possibilities for the future of this franchise, so the best move is to forget that this game ever existed, move past the disaster, and continue building this universe. I hope you all enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.